It was actually way cooler than I expected it to be.
Wow, this is very intuitive.
That was cool. Oh, I did it!
Unbelievable.
That was really fun, and that was a lot easier than I thought it would be.
Welcome to Upward with Transfer, where we tackle our evolving workforce and how educators, governments, and industries are changing to keep up. We're dedicated to building effective pathways for workers and job seekers to get the skills they need to get into well-paying careers in high-growth industries. Our part in that is designing and distributing hands-on simulations that learners can use to explore new career options and develop core skills before entering an in-person vocational training program. Transfer simulations augment human educators, broadening their range of classroom possibilities without expensive facilities build-outs or specialized equipment. I'm Jack Sislak, Editorial Director at Transfer, and your host. Continuing our series of episodes about non-traditional career pathways, we're sitting down with Yoonjin Roh, Director of Educational Data Science here at Transfer. Let's jump in. All right, cool. Yoonjin, please introduce yourself and tell our audience a bit about who you are and what you do here at Transfer.
Nice to meet you, everybody. I'm Yoonjin. I am leading the Learning Intelligence team at Transfer as the Director of Data Science. And as a team, we contribute to the company in, three different ways. By the way, our company create the learning products for our learners. So basically, we want to help our learners get training they need for their job placement. So our contributions, we start with learning research. There are a lot of ideas and, learning theories, cognitive theories, and educational, theories out there for, understanding how people learn. But our team wants to evaluate and test what is the most impactful way for our learners. So we want to create the best learning experience for our learners. So that's, one of the contributions that we make. And obviously, as a data science, team, we leverage data. The data are generated by our learners. And, we collect the data from the very beginning of the learning journeys. So starting from enrollment. So basically, we want to know how they access and interact with the programs and the learning systems. And we want to know how they learn and how much they learn and if they can get a job after completing the program. So that's the kind of whole journey of the learning so that we want to measure that. And as part of that, we are not just relying on the data that are collected through our systems, but we also collect qualitative data, something like, learner feedback, and we ask them about their satisfaction and, we get their suggestions.
Yes.
So we want to use those data points to improve our product. And obviously, when we design new products, we want to use that feedback as well. Then at the last step, what we want to do with all that data is to evaluate and test our product. So we want to know if our product works in the way that we designed.
Yes.
Right. So that's an important piece.
Right.
So that's how we contribute to the company.
Cool. Yeah. Well, one of the first ways we started working together was through these efficacy studies. I was hoping you'd talk a little bit more about that. And for those of you at home, we're, if you haven't seen this already in your transfer journey, we're a very data-driven company. So of course, we're going to have people collecting as much data about all of the learning journey. But please tell our audience a bit more about these efficacy studies.
Yeah, actually the efficacy studies that we do are, these related to the second and the third point that I made. When we collect all this data from our learners and educators and, all through different channels. So we observe the student interactions when they use the virtual reality simulations, but also we get their verbal feedback and we actually speak with them too.
Yes.
Collecting all this data, this is for evaluating our product, right? So at the end of the day, when we design a really good product, we need to know if product is really helping our students.
Absolutely.
Like students really learning. Are they learning? We need to know. So that's why.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we do the efficacy studies and especially working with our customers. That can be really meaningful and helpful because every customer has their own challenges and also their own stories.
100%.
So that's why, working with creative team like you know, it's very important because we can create a really nice story from this data so that, you know, we understand our customers better. Yeah.
It's awesome. Yeah. Again, for those of you out at home, it's all about relationships here at Transfer, both internally in terms of the teams working together to tell these amazing stories, externally in terms of gathering this data from our customers, telling these stories, helping people actually get jobs. So yeah, all of us here at Transfer, we really believe strongly in the mission of like bringing this training to people, helping people get well-paying jobs in high-growth industries. But this is a really great way to tell those stories and back it up with data. It's not just a good feeling; it's also actually doing what it's supposed to do. So yeah, let's move into let's talk a little bit about your personal, non-traditional career path, and let's get started. Actually, even one step back from that, how do you define a non-traditional career path? Let's start there.
That's a great question, and also a very interesting, difficult question. So to talk about like how we will define non-traditional career pathway. I mean, if people look at my resume, people may think, oh, you have a really like traditional linear pathway, right? To get to your position. But well, there is a hidden story. Resume doesn't say everything about your life story, right? So I think that's
absolutely.
Exactly. That's the interesting part of understanding people. So I will talk more about that later. But I mean, the way that I define the non-traditional career pathway, well, people have all their life events, and because of numerous reasons, you know, we deviate from our expectations. You have all, you know, your desire, expectations, you set the goal, you want to be this and that, like you set the goals, right? Like when you are young, you know, you want to be like, oh yeah, I want to be a doctor, you know, I want to be a, electrician. Like you have your goal, but that goal doesn't always happen as you planned. So that deviation, if I think about that deviation, I think that that's the way that I think, you know, we can define the non-traditional career pathway, because that can give you a better perspective about your lives. And, you know, when you make a mistake, obviously, and when you have some failure moments, then I think that because of those reasons, without your intention, you just need to detour. You have to change your plan completely, but you have to embrace it too. So
much.
I think that that's the kind of the way that I see the non-traditional career pathway. Yeah.
Cool. Is embracing those changes and those challenges that come up and making it now it's part of the plan.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, you've been hinting at it a little bit. We might as well give the people what they want. Tell us a bit about your non-traditional career path.
Okay, this is a very difficult part, and I was actually thinking a lot, like how I can share my story, which is a failure story. It's not fun at all, of course. You know, if I look back, then now I'm fine. You know, it's been a long time, and I know how to embrace it and how I can view it as a learning experience. But when I think about my childhood, you know, people who know me when I was a child in school, including even myself, people would imagine that I would be a smart scholar, you know, who would be very competitive, but with very little emotional intelligence and empathy. I was that kind of person, by the way. So, and I was very, very focused on education and like getting into the top college, you know, that kind of mindset. And by the way, I grew up in Korea. And we are very competitive and very much focused on education in my, culture at that time. And especially my generation at that time, it was all about like competition, the scores that you have on any test. So in Korea, after 12 years of education, right after your high school, there is one-time exam, standardized exam, which is equivalent to SAT or ACT. And you take the exam to get into the college that you want to, you want. So I took the exam, but that time I had so much pressure and, obviously I couldn't handle the stress and everything. And basically I couldn't finish the test.
Wow.
It's a very difficult moment, even now, if I think about it. So I failed it. And that was not in my head, like in my, I couldn't think about that failure at all. So that failure was a big, moment that I had to think about, my life. So I was always thinking about like, only flawless, success. I'm sorry, I should do it again. Oh my God, I'm a little bit emotional. So
this is all really great. I appreciate you sharing this story. take it however you need to. You're doing really great though. This is awesome point to just take a breath.
Okay. So yes, as a high school student, that time I was a very high performer, and in my head, I just wanted to have like just flawless, success.
Yes.
That's what I thought as a success. In my head, the definition of success was just flawless, no mistakes, and just going to the college that you want, and you get a job, right? That's the kind of the definition of success.
Yes, it's all going to work out in one straight line, which we just talked about with the non-traditional path.
Exactly.
Is going to go in all sorts of different directions. You got to be able to embrace it. But yeah, please continue.
Yeah. So, well, that was a very, very difficult time for me. And also there was social stigma too, like a failure. After 12 years of education, there was the one time that you can show that you did a good job. But then I failed it. Obviously, my family was very frustrated, and like everybody was frustrated. Oof. And because of that, numerous reasons, my, psychological issues, and I intentionally isolated myself from all social interactions for about a year until I take the test again next year.
Yeah.
And then obviously I had some struggling time even after I got into college, 1 year later. That time, obviously I started thinking, how can I define success? Basically redefine success, because in my head.
Yeah. Oh, okay, great. Right? This is awesome.
You know what? Like, think about this. Anybody can make a mistake, no matter how big it is. No matter how small it is, you can make a mistake.
Yeah.
But that mistake shouldn't determine your success.
Correct.
So that was the trap that I was in. I couldn't really embrace, I couldn't process that for a long time.
Oh my God. Yeah.
But because of that, I have a very unique philosophy to look at student data and understand our customers and learners, because I know.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I know. Everybody has their own stories. Sometimes failure can turn into success. But we don't have that picture that time. So that's why I think that we need to be patient, resilient. So that's how I, think about my own experience. And now I can, comfortably say that, well, it was a very difficult moment, deep depression, but I can say that it was a good learning experience for myself.
Yeah, I can. I really like empathize with that story. It's funny you were mentioning, not funny, haha, but it's an interesting moment of resonance with me, which is I had a very unsuccessful first year of college, and then I ended up in a similar situation. And as soon as you said that you intentionally isolated, I was like, I did that, like, because I was, and when you're a young person like that, especially if you've been pretty successful up to that point, and then you come up against a really hard obstacle that you stumble at.
Yeah.
You don't have the background in overcoming these challenges over and over again. Like it's like getting hit in the chest, and you kind of can't recover right away. So that was a huge moment. Thank you so much for sharing that. So I loved how you ended it on that hopeful note about sort of people define their own success. You don't just see numbers on a page. This is also something that's really amazing when it comes to data and the data journey. They're not just numbers on a page to you, they're people. That's the story of a person. That's so amazing.
Exactly.
But let's keep talking a little more sort of philosophically. Why do you think non-traditional pathways are becoming even more important in our changing world, our changing economy? Let's go there.
Yeah, so I think that that question can be related to the interviews that I have, for the candidates who apply to like data science positions or more like quantitative research scientist positions. So recently I have spoken with a lot of candidates. So obviously, our expectation and perception of hiring a quantitative research scientist, they need to have quantitative skills. They need to know how to analyze data, right?
Sure.
Like, they need to know like statistical algorithms
Fair
and so
enough.
on. But I really think that, empathy and social emotional intelligence is probably more important than the technical skills. Obviously, to get to the point where you apply to the job, you have your training, you have your certification, you have your own work experience.
You have a baseline of technical skill.
Exactly. But that technical skill doesn't really give you all the tools that you need to analyze or understand human data. Because as I mentioned, we are a learning company. We are not just looking at numbers. We are not just analyzing the numbers. we are
Right.
interpreting those data to understand our
Yeah.
learners and educators and people. People are behind. Yes. So that's
Yeah.
why, I think about the non-traditional way, and especially when people have these kinds of their own life stories and experience, they are more mature.
Yeah.
And they understand, they have more empathy.
It's true.
That's how
True.
they can really, combine their skills with social, emotional, empathy, those skills. So
Yeah.
that's why, I think that just a linear success, career pathway,
Yeah.
still people can be successful, but what we
Totally.
need in the company, well, we are all human beings and we want to be
Yeah.
good colleagues and we want to be also part of this education community.
Right.
That's why, coming from non-traditional background, understanding people better, that's actually
Yeah.
more important than
Yeah.
the technical skills. Yeah.
I totally agree with that. And yeah, this is a company full of non-traditional pathway people, different careers and things like that. And to your point too about like that baseline of technical skill, learning more math, learning more
Yes.
analysis won't fill in for the human side of it. So
Exactly.
once you've controlled for that with the resumes and whatever else, then you start going a level deeper, level 2 deeper, and you start asking people, like you were talking about, the emotional learning and emotional intelligence, things like that. Awesome. So let's keep going down this path. What trends are you seeing in the education world around embracing candidates with non-traditional career paths?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, hiring process requires reviewing the resumes and checking, their technical skills and so on. But especially in the educational company and educational sector,
Yes.
when we hire a
Yeah.
data scientist or quantitative analyst, they need to know they can have computer science degree, data science, statistics degree. It's all important. But the knowledge and skills they gain from those programs are important. But how those skills
Right.
are going to be applied to understanding learners' behaviors and learner journeys require more than
Yeah.
technical skills. As I mentioned,
Right.
empathy, and you always need to think beyond numbers and data. And you need to know
Yeah.
who are behind the data. That's a very important, skill. And also that's more of beyond the technical skill.
Yeah.
That's why I think that, we are trying to hire people who have these types of philosophical, thoughts and also experience. Yeah.
They're creative. They're creative. They have imagination.
Yes.
And just like you were talking before earlier in this call about, being a very analytical person in your youth and thinking that you're going to be a scholar, and people can get locked into those mindsets and they forget to, like we've been talking here, to go beyond, to think about the real, the real learner. We're not just designing a simulation that's going to live in a vacuum. A real human has to get in that sim, learn from it. It has to be effective. It has to be effective in the real world, and they have to get a job and live a life.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's go big picture now. Let's talk about what is our vision as a company of a future where more people from more non-traditional backgrounds are filling more roles, not just in our company, but in every facet of society. Whether they're using transfer sims to get there or not. Just how would the world look different if more places and more people were open to these non-traditional pathways?
Well, this goes again to humility, maturity, and self-awareness and empathy. These are very important traits that we should all have to be a decent human being.
Totally.
Especially this company. The culture that I really appreciate is that we all come from different backgrounds, and
Yes.
we have respect toward those diverse backgrounds. And when you have different backgrounds that you haven't thought about, then that's going to be additional, piece to your life story. So these kinds of information and these kinds of traits, personalities, I don't think that it comes naturally. So it requires some kind of, effort in your life. And from my personal experience and observations, I think that it comes from your own failures and mistakes that you have made. So without those, I don't think that you will have a really good understanding of your life. So, when we have these kinds of, people around us in the company, then that way we build a stronger community. And that community can help our learners better because, we are going to really understand what learners are really struggling with and why they are struggling. And we can even intervene in a way that they need, not as a teacher or not to really, direct them to the right way. There is no right way or wrong way, right? So like to have a better understanding about learners, that can only come from your deep self-reflection. Then that self-reflection can only come from your own mistakes and failures. That's how I believe. So that's why really I appreciate the company culture. We are all about humanity.
Yeah.
We are all about, authenticity. So this is a really important, company culture that I appreciate.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a really great place to bring it to. And for the audience at home, we don't address you too directly that much, but this is like a really impassioned plea from us to think about the ways you're in your life, in your organization, et cetera, that you are helping create a more compassionate place. And this is something too, Yoonjin, when you were saying about people of diverse backgrounds, we view that diversity here at Transfer, that diversity of people, who they are and what their backgrounds are, where they've come from, as a total strength.
Yes.
That it is so important. That's why we're trying to tell these stories.
Yes.
Not just to showcase how cool it is to be here, which it is, but also, again, an impassioned plea. Look around in your world, and how can you, maybe help live these values and make an opportunity for somebody else.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah, we talk about upward mobility, and we do that in the company too. We are all coming from different backgrounds, and if you want to pursue a different thing, after you join the company, even though you started your job as a, data scientist, but you want to be a designer, then why not?
Yeah.
We are that much supportive of that diverse background and also, all that desire. Yes.
We really walk the walk, yes, when it comes to our review process. And hey, are you in a great fit? How can it be better? It's awesome.
Exactly.
Yoonjin, I always love chatting with you. It's great. Do you have any final thoughts before we close out this amazing episode that I feel so honored to have been a part of?
So, as I talked a lot about human-centered research, people-centered research and analytics, humility, authenticity. My emphasis is all about people-centered research and analytics, and I emphasize this point to my team members and whoever I work with. Because, these days, collecting data is easier and more convenient. But it doesn't mean what data represents has changed. We used to collect data by observing and speaking with people, but now we have better technology to capture all this data without even interacting with people. But don't forget, data represents people interaction.
Yes.
That's what I want to really emphasize. Yes. As a data scientist.
Hey, a very human-centered data scientist. As we are a very human-centered company that relies on data for a lot of what we do. All right, awesome. Yoonjin, thank you so much. This has been a really awesome chat. Thanks all of you out there for joining us, and be sure to come back next time for another one of our great non-traditional career path stories here on Upward with Transfer. All right, bye-bye, everybody.